Hello everyone, Pedro here with CineMIlled, back in the CineMIlled garage, back with the 54 Pontiac, and today we are going to be doing you could call it a hosted tray shot. So the angle of the day is to put the camera somewhere around here so that we can look at the driver or the passenger, or if we mount it further back, the people in the back. But also, let's not forget, we can also just pan the camera over here and look at the front tire. Maybe there's going to be a blowout on the front tire. We can also pan towards the back and see the tire spinning out or the car drifting and that sort of thing. So this angle can be used for lots of different kind of shots, not just looking at the talent inside of the vehicle. So today, as our primary mounting tool, we are going to be using the 10-inch tilting suction cup. And what this will do for us, this will actually give us our horizontal mounting platform that you can either mount a tripod head to, you can mount a CineMIlled hardball head, which is my preference when doing camera work instead of fluid heads, and then get the camera in position and then brace all of that with lots of other tools. Now, since we're not shooting with GoPros, we're shooting with slightly heavier cinema cameras. What we want to always try to do is give ourselves a very solid weight-bearing mounting point, right? Anchor point. Something that's really going to carry most of the load of the setup in something like this. So the way we do this is with starters, what some people call grenades, potatoes. There's lots of names for it, but basically it's a starting point that in our case is going to go into the frame of the vehicle. For vehicles that have boxed or C-channel frames such as this one, it's really easy. On unibody cars it's a little bit harder, but there are lots of other tricks and a couple other CineMIlled products that we're coming out with that's going to help you achieve this solid rigging point. So we're going to start there with our CineMIlled Smart Starter. So I'm going to throw myself here on the ground and we're going to start getting into it. But from the Smart Starter, we're going to come up and it's going to brace our 10-inch tilting suction cup, and we'll go on from there. So before I throw myself on the ground and get my nice black clothes dirty, you might not be doing this in a clean garage. You might be doing this in a dirt lot, for example. So it's yet another great case for another great use for furniture pad. We had a cool Tip Tuesday video where I covered why I always bring furniture blankets, furniture pads with me on car rigging days to protect the paint of the vehicle while I'm rigging over the hood, for example. But this is another use. All right, so I like to fold it so it's nice and soft, and I'm gonna throw that on the ground. If you have a creeper, great. If you don't, most likely you don't. And very often the vehicle's too low to use a creeper anyways. So a nice soft furniture blanket will make this just a little bit more pleasurable. All right, so that gives you a nice landing spot for your knees so you don't hurt your knees. It's a great place for you to throw down the tools that you're going to be using. And let's get to our first CineMIlled vehicle rigging product from our ecosystem that we're going to be utilizing, and that is the brand new Smart Starters. So new that this is the first one off of the CNC machine. So it's basically a solid piece of speedrail, I guess you could call it, right? It has the same outer diameter as speedrail. It'll have a number of different threads on the bottom, and it will come with a bolt so that you can bolt this to, in our case, a frame rail, right? And then off of here, we're going to use some 360 Houdini speed rail clamps and come off of here with speed rail and then up towards the camera. So this will provide our very rigid support, weight support. So this is really going to carry. So this is really going to carry the weight of our rig. While this is not always possible, if you have the right tools, you can certainly get a lot closer to building yourself a much safer rig, right? And allowing you to maybe use an even heavier camera. So, all right, so our first goal is to get the Smart Starter bolted to the frame rail of the car. So let's head under the car and see how I did that. We want to look for holes on the frame rail. So this is a body on frame car, which means It has a frame and there's a body that goes on top of it. And luckily on this kind of construction of vehicle, there's a lot of these access holes, okay? So there's a number of different tricks you can use to utilize them for car rigging. First of all, you should find out if it's a C channel or a closed box frame, right? If it's a closed box frame, you can use some people call it a hammer, essentially something that you stick in and it gives you a stud. If it's a C channel, like we have here, look, I can reach the back of it, right? That means I can actually rig by putting a bolt through it, right? So if it's a C channel, that means we can use the smart starter we have here. So first of all, I'm looking up here and I'm seeing where I want the camera to be more or less. And I've identified here that this would be too far back and that this hole right here actually would be ideal for the camera position that we want to achieve, right? So, all right, so let's try the hex head first. And I usually, there's an exhaust or something here, so you don't have clear access to the back of that. That's what makes this a little difficult. But there you go. So poke the bolt out, and you could simply spin this on, and I'm holding the back of the bolt head there. All right, so we're gonna spin this guy on here. Now we want to make this nice and tight, so we have a few options. One, let's see if we can get a wrench there. So where do we go from here? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a fixed Houdini speed rail clamp, which is a male and a female, and we're going to put it in parallel. And I'm going to loosen that. We're going to slide this guy on here. So, and I like to push it all the way against the vehicle. Makes it a little bit stronger. And now you could tighten it like right here. The downside is that this is now the lowest point of the vehicle. We still have a lot of clearance towards the body. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rotate this back so that we are as high up with this as we can go, and we still maintain the ground clearance. Now, this is obviously something very important if you're going to be actually driving the vehicle on roads. If this is on a process trailer, this is less important. But if you're going to be driving this vehicle on roads, this step is extremely important. You want to be very conscious of if you left any rigging poking underneath the car, because keep in mind, even though there's a lot of room right here, the more weight, the more people sit in this car, the further down this is going to go. Not only that, if they hit a bump, the suspension is going to compress. So if you leave anything pointing down, it can very quickly and very dangerously get to the ground, right? And especially if you have a bump, if you have like a speed bump, a hump in the road, once the suspension compresses, and the fact that that hump is coming up, especially because we're basically in the middle of the car, you're gonna impact the ground. It's gonna either damage the frame rail, it's gonna try to rip this rigging off, it might rip the camera off, and that is not a good day. So when possible, we want to try to maintain our ground clearance. That's my main point here. So all right, so we're just gonna tighten this fixed Houdini speed rail clamp. Now you're not going to be able to do that on every vehicle, but I would say try your best to achieve a hard point at some place, generally at the bottom, to carry all the load. All right, so here we have it. The first key vehicle rigging tool that we're going to use for this rig that is part of the CineMIlled ecosystem, which is the 10-inch tilting suction cup. Now this gives us a tilting surface that we can angle and put at whatever angle we want on the vehicle. This provides 150 pounds of suctioning, holding power. So this door, for example, is very curved, right? A lot of modern vehicles have straighter doors. Most doors have some sort of curve to them. Now, these days, we don't see this very much, which is belt trim. So in this case, this presents a rigging problem for us, because while this is a very concave suction cup that's actually made for curved surfaces, this is why you notice it's fairly tall. It's actually because this is the curved surfaces version of the suction cup. You can get a flat version that has a lot less curve to it. So if we put this here, you can clearly see there's no way we're going to have suction right there, right? So that won't work, right? So what we have to do is we have to go under that. So the problem with that is now the camera is going to be right here, right? So this is why we're also going to soon be using a riser. But before we get to that point, let's slap the suction cup on there. Now that we got rid of the red line and we got full vacuum on there, all right, it's very tight on the vehicle. It's probably a good point to point out that this paint is very old and it's very porous in a way, right? There's a lot of imperfections. So I did a video called Suction Cup Paint Protection. You look it up on our YouTube channel. And that's where I go into using something like Carpet Shield. So on a vehicle like this, normally I'd be using Carpet Shield. We're not going to be going out to shoot right now, so just for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to be using the Carpet Shield, but I do highly recommend using it, especially on paint that is not fresh, right? On older paint. All right, so at this point, I have a nice flat surface on our tilting suction cup. I could angle it if I wanted to, but obviously in this point, we want to make a surface so that we could put a camera right here. So the cool thing about this top plate is it gives you a lot of rigging options. You're going to have the Houdini star mounting pattern right here, which will allow you to use the male Houdini speed rail. You can also use a female speed rail Houdini. You can also use a starter, which is what we're going to use. So the key thing here is it gives you a lot of different options as to how you're going to connect your brace, right? You could put a baby pin on here, do it with the 5/8 rod. You don't have to use speed rail. Since I'm coming off of speed rail, I might as well connect to speed rail. So, and I have my choice of tools here. But, just understand that you have a lot of options here to give you a starting point in order for you to brace this to the speed rail. All right, so today we're going to use another one, yet one more CineMIlled Smart Starter. So much like the frame, we're just going to spin this guy on there. The next step is let's build our brace and connect it. And so to do that, I'm going to use two 360 Houdini clamps and a piece of 2-foot long black anodized CineMIlled speed rail. So here's the speed rail. Here's the two Houdini clamps. So I'm going to keep these loose at the moment. And we're going to slide these on. All right. So as you can see here, I can now freely articulate this. I can change this angle this way, that way. I can change this angle this way by combining both axes of movement on the speed rail tube. I can get this tube to wherever it needs to go. But luckily here, we are in a perfect position to get our second clamp, and it's basically lined up with our starter. So let's, I usually like to put the bolt facing out, so the bolt head, so that it's easy to get to. And there we go there, and there we go. It's a little bit more snug so it's not falling all over the place. All right, so at this point, I'm going to make this as tight as I can get it, the bottom mount. Now, the top mount, it's going to have some movement because of the suction cup. In this case, our door is actually, since it's an old car, it's actually kind of loose. So normally I would figure out a way to wedge this so that it doesn't have play. Or obviously on any new car, you're not going to have that problem. But in any case, I'm going to pull the door out a little bit right there. And I'm actually going to pull up on this and apply a little bit of upwards tension and lock it down. All right, so it's time to get the camera on there. And this is where I grab our brand new CineMIlled hardball mount. I got a airy 12-inch long airy dovetail here to balance the camera. So right now I just wanted to show how these two pieces could go together. And the reason why you might want an angle such as this one is to shoot, let's say, the front tire of the vehicle. So let's loosen the ball. All right, there we go. We're going to want the camera pointed to the front of the vehicle. Let's tighten the ball down. There we go. All right, now how are we going to attach these two things? So you have two options on the 10-inch tilting suction cup. You have a Mitchell, which we have here, or you have another one with a sliding slot. So with the slot, it's very easy. Just find a place where the two bolts line up here, and you can just stick a thread through. In this case, since we have the optional Mitchell mount top plate on the 10-inch suction cup, we're actually going to put Mitchell threaded collar and castle nut on the bottom of our hardball mount. So that's one of the great things about our hardball mount. It is drilled to accept our threaded collar and castle nut. So we just got to line those guys up. There's one. We just got to get these threaded in. Now our hardball mount has a male Mitchell threaded collar and castle nut in order to attach it to anything with a Mitchell base. So it's going to be as easy as just dropping it in. Boom, right there. Taking our castle nut and threading it in. Just spin that castle nut. Can use our CineMIlled Mitchell wrench on the castle nut. Now this is one of the main advantages of using a Mitchell threaded collar is you can put our Mitchell wrench on there and get it very tight, very secure. All right, let's slide the camera on. And there you have it. Now we can loosen it. We can frame up our shot and lock the camera in place in any position that we so desire. Get that straight. There we go. And there you go. It's already extremely stiff. But to complete this, we always need to triangulate. Now, you can go onto a window or to another place on the body. In this car is really old, has really thick windows. The paint's really bad. This provides a nice mounting point for the suction cup, nice and smooth. It gives us a really good grip, no leaks. So, but just keep in mind, before you suction cup onto anything, make sure the glass is not cracked because suction cups can worsen any existing cracks. I did a video called Suction Cup Glass Safety, so look that up. I'll put a link in the description of the video. We go more in depth into that conversation. But in this case, since the paint is so bad, it keeps me from having to use another piece of carpet shield on the car. And once again, this isn't really holding the camera onto the car, right? It's not doing that much work. There's not a lot of weight pulling on this suction cup. That's why we're actually just using a 6-inch suction cup. Most of the work of bearing the load of that's going to happen when you hit a bump or something is in this case being done by the much stronger 10-inch suction cup and our lower anchor. So there's not that much forces acting on the top of the camera here. But it is something to be aware of. If you're worried, if you have a much bigger camera payload, obviously I would suggest going back onto the body, okay? If you had much better paint than me, that would probably even be my first choice. But for today, for demonstration purposes, this will do just fine. Let me loosen this guy up. All right, so we're gonna go here to my first triangulation right there. And now we gotta pick our second triangulation point. I'm gonna put a suction cup on the roof of the vehicle, and I'm going to bring it down. So what we could choose to do here, we've got our another 6-inch suction cup, is we could go right here to the window, boom, right? Could go off the body because the camera's facing this way or backwards, it's not gonna see it. We can go even off the body somewhere over here. As long as the lens doesn't see it, it's okay. Or alternatively, we can also go off the roof, which is actually what I'm gonna do here. So let's thread that in. All right, so there you go. Then all you have to do is get these guys tight. For doing shots of the front tire blowing out, maybe just a cool action shot with a, you know, sort of first person view with the corner of the car, with the front tire of the car, you know, weaving back and forth. Maybe it's hitting some cones or hitting a pedestrian or something like that. This would be a great action angle to do. Consequently, the same thing, but looking backwards at the rear tire, you know, doing a smoky burnout or drifting around a corner, very common. So one of the last things too here is I have a eye bolt that we're going to be selling on CineMIlled.com soon. Right here, it's a safety eye bolt that you can attach at any place on the camera. In this case here, I have it on the side. And we can actually put a safety directly to the camera, to the expensive bit, off to somewhere on the vehicle, right? So that's an additional safety. And before we send this off down the road, of course, we're gonna do our final safety, redundant safety mechanism, which is our ratchet strap. If you are experiencing a little bit more vibration, what you can do is take an additional suction cup right here, and whatever suction cup you have additional, and thread in a baby pin like we did here to the back of the back of the camera here, of the camera dovetail, and do an additional brace. And as always, as much as you can, induce an angle into this to give it as much support as you can. All that's left is to put our safety ratchet strap on. All right, so we got here our rigging ratchet straps and our gutter hooks. So we're gonna grab the wheel arches on both the front and the back. Now this is a lot more easy if you have an assistant. You're gonna see I'm actually gonna do it by myself right now, but it is a lot easier if you have an assistant. But it is possible to do it by yourself. As far as coming through the suction cup here, we have open slots here. And so you can weave it through where it's actually, once you tighten it, it's actually gonna push down on the suction cup a little bit, which is a good thing. If you wanna apply even more downward pressure, you can go over the handle to the frame here of the tilting suction cup, and that'll apply even more downward pressure. So let's give this a try. Wish me luck. I'm doing this by myself. Let's see. Now, it's a good point to bring up when ratcheting the ratchet straps. I've brought this up in the video for the ratchet straps. This is a mechanical advantage device, right? It's kind of like a come along, if you know what that is. You can easily bend the edge of an old panel, especially a rusty one like this one. So you're gonna wanna use your common sense. Again, you're not like trying to hold this whole thing onto the car all by itself, but you know, use some common sense. So, you know, as I'm tightening it, I'm very aware of to see if there's anything touching, anything rubbing, anything bending. You know, if you do have it touching the body parts of the car, you can cut some yoga mat to protect the paint. You can fold up a piece of duvetine. You can even cut up a piece of the furniture pad. Whatever you can stuff on there in between the paint of the car and the ratchet strap will help you protect the vehicle. Now we do have a cloth pad here on the bottom of the ratchet strap buckle, so to sort of protect it at least a little bit. All right, so there you have it. We are safetied with our ratchet strap and gutter hooks. We have attached the 10-inch tilting suction cup. We have attached the CineMIlled hardball mount to the top plate of the tilting suction cup using a Mitchell threaded collar and castle nut that CineMIlled makes. We have triangulated the top of the camera using 2 more 6-inch suction cups, 2 more baby pins, 4 more 360 5/8 Houdinis. We have additionally taken an additional step of bracing the back bottom dovetail of the camera. You could go straight into the camera as well to give it even an additional rigidity mounting point. We've used a 3x6 suction cup to do that, to achieve that extra rigidity there, to keep the plate of the camera from vibrating. And to do that, we use 2 more 5/8 Houdinis, of course, a 3x6 suction cup, and 2 more baby pins, right? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the camera off again, and we need to get the camera higher here to get a interior shot. So the way we're going to do that is by using a CineMIlled Mitchell riser. So this is a new part on our catalog. This is something new that we decided to make. So as you can imagine, this is going to drop in here. It's going to raise the camera this much higher. We're going to put the hardball mount. We're going to put the camera on there and then continue to triangulate and secure the camera for a higher up shot. This is the CineMIlled version. This is the version that we make. We're going to have lots of different variety of, we call these standoffs, different standoff heights that you can actually screw together and fine tune the height. We just finished making this, so right now this is the only height we have, so we're going to use it. This base plate also allows for lots of other mounting options. We got the Houdini star pattern right here, so you can actually mount this to speedrail. You could put the Mitchell collar and castle nut like we did here. You could put Houdinis straight on here, lots of options. But for today, we are just going to drop it on right there. Boom. All right. And let's get the castle nut right here. Let's spin that on. All right, as always, you can use the CineMIlled Mitchell wrench to get it nice and tight. Okay. CineMIlled Mitchell wrench, coming in handy. All right, now we have immediately raised the camera platform by 1 foot. This is not level because the door curves down. Now, that is not a problem because we're going to be installing the new CineMIlled hardball leveling mount, and that will get rid of any misalignment that we might have here so we can achieve our perfect frame here. Doesn't really matter what position you put this in because the ball rotates a full 360, pitches and rolls. I like to put it like this, long ways. There is a locating there for a keyway there for the Mitchell. Let's get another castle nut. Let's thread that on. There we go. Let's grab our Mitchell wrench. Here's our trusty camera. All right, so now that the camera's on there, this is when we call over the DP and the director, and you know, we'll loosen this guy right here, the hardball mount, and have them look at a director's monitor or the onboard monitor. Let's bring our stand in there, a little doggy, put them right there at the door, find out your exact frame, and have them hold that position. And let's lock that in place right there using the quick lever on the hardball mount. And okay, so now we have set the frame. Everybody's happy. So all we really need to do now is triangulate the upper portion of the camera. Let's get the first suction cup right here. All right, that position worked well for our last rig, so we're going to reuse that. We got our 360 Houdinis right here. Let's lay those in. Let's slide this guy in here into the first position. And boom. Let's grab our wrench. Let's get that tight. And now I'm going to pull on this a little bit and tighten it. All right, I'm going to grab here my other 10-inch suction cup. Find a nice spot on the roof for it. Okay, lay that in there. And now attach my second triangulation point right there. Let's get that tight. All right, and there you have it. We are pretty much done. We got our upper triangulation completed. If for whatever reason this rod was appearing in the shot because you had a very wide angle lens, so this could not be in this position, our other option at that point would be to run down over here. That would be equally as agreeable. So we could do that as well. Now, if we want to continue to stabilize this structure, we can choose to brace either the back of the camera or even the front of the camera from vibration by using a baby pin, an additional suction cup, and a couple more 360 Houdinis. So here we go. Just happen to have that here. So at this point, you would have lots of options. I could use a mixed Houdini from speedrail to 5/8 and put a rod right here to support the back part of the camera, right? That would be one option. I could get a longer rigging rod. Let's talk about angles, angle choices. So here's the rigging rod we're going to be using for this additional support point, additional triangulation point. So if we did something like this, while that would work to eliminate any movement going in this axis, the much better situation would be to create an angle that's opposite of an angle that we have on these two poles, right? So right here we create a triangle in one direction, but if we actually angle it down, we're actually providing triangulation in two directions, if that makes sense. So for me, in my evaluation, if I want to add an additional brace to this situation here, this is what I would choose. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use what I have left over here, which is a 3x6 suction cup. Now, you know, if I had a 6-inch, I would use a 6-inch. If I had a 10-inch, I would use a 10-inch. As long as you have the real estate where it makes sense angle-wise to land, use as big as a suction cup as you have available. A lot of times, especially on these sort of bonus, stiffening setups, it's really going to be whatever you have left over. So let me slide this guy in here. There you go. So you got an additional triangulation point to the back of the camera. Lastly, I would say to safety this, I always like to think about safety at the end. Of course, I got my eye bolt here on the camera, and I can run a soft loop, maybe to something that's not gonna fall off the car. Like in this case, this door handle would be a good location to tie the actual camera to it. The expensive part of all this. And then lastly, what I like to call my idiot nut and bolt check. Here you go, a door-mounted camera, sort of emulating a hosted tray. You can adjust the height of the lens here with the risers, with the different standoffs. Normally you'd be able to move the suction cup up and down. You can point this camera forward, you can point it back, you can point it at the driver. You know, lots of different options. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna now list the list of products, the shopping list right here for you guys. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to get back to you. You can send me a DM anytime you want, give me a call. And we have a great Facebook group for vehicle rigging and camera car mounts, and cinema camera car mounts. Lots of experienced people on there to help answer your questions. You can post your rig, get some feedback. If you're stuck on something, it's a great resource. Let's go out and get some shots, and I'll see you on the next one.